The views I'm about to extend are my own and don't represent any other institution. I'm going to talk mostly about the non-proliferation and the NPT. I'd like to start by offering some context of my own views. I'm both a non-proliferation treaty supporter and an optimist. I think despite some weaknesses, the treaty has performed well. Several decades ago, there were 9 states with nuclear weapons. Today, there are 9 states with nuclear weapons. We've traded South Africa for North Korea, arguably not a great trade, especially if you live here. But still, it's been a stable regime which has really been an asset to international peace and security. Despite all that, observers from Robert McNamara on have worried over the possibility of greater proliferation. And the death of the NPT has been predicted many times. All of those observers have been proven wrong. I'm worried that this time may be different. Why? There's a saying in the nuclear safety realm that an accident anywhere is an accident everywhere. I fear that the attacks on the Non-Proliferation Treaty in places away from the Korean Peninsula will have far-ranging effects to include on the Korean Peninsula. The world changed as much in February of 2022 as it did in November of 1989 and December of 1991 when the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union collapsed. We're in a very different world today than the last time I was in Korea. Russia is not only violating the international order, it is vandalizing it. I don't mean to trivialize this, but it's the difference between merely speeding and taking down all the speed limit signs. They're trying to destroy norms and law that have been built up over decades. This poses a direct threat to non-proliferation policy in several ways. By attacking the Budapest Memorandum, they attack the security of non-nuclear weapon states everywhere. By shielding Iran from responses to Tehran's violation not only of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, but also its safeguards agreement with the IAEA, they undermine the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And I would just ask, does anyone believe that Iran worries that it might have to come before the UN Security Council when Russia, wielding a veto, is receiving drones from Iran? By threatening nuclear use, Russia directly attacks the Non-Proliferation Treaty. And most importantly, by attacking the very idea of international law. That cannot help but have consequences for the Korean Peninsula. Russia was a party to the 6-party talks. And I would add that those countries who fail to oppose, or worse, tacitly support the lawlessness that Russia is exhibiting are complicit in undermining the Non-Proliferation Treaty. I was going to point out that, sadly, since the 2000s, when there was active diplomacy attempting to reverse the North Korean nuclear weapons program, and I attended the 6-party talks hosted by China, that diplomacy is essentially stalled. That alone is of concern. I was even more concerned to hear Professor Jia raise the possibility that China might reverse its support for non-proliferation. So what is to be done about all this? We face a situation where 2 of the nuclear weapon states under the Non-Proliferation Treaty and 2 of the permanent members of the United Nations Security Council may be either rethinking or directly attacking non-proliferation policy. I don't believe that the correct response is further proliferation. I think instead that like-minded nations must act together. Those that believe in democracy, human rights, and rule of law must stand together and support those values as well as non-proliferation. Those shared values are our greatest source of strength. In pursuit of those shared values, we must prepare an active defense. We must defend not only the norms, values, and laws, but we must also be prepared with more tangible defense. I believe that extended deterrence has been the most successful non-proliferation policy in history, and that the best evidence of that is the fact, I think, that the difference between Poland, which is a member of NATO and therefore a beneficiary of U.S. extended deterrence, and Ukraine has not been lost on other observers. Fortunately, South Korea is a treaty ally of the United States and a beneficiary of extended deterrence. Both the United States and Korea will need to act more closely, but also with others in the region and others globally, to stand up to the threats to non-proliferation.